Why the blank am I not happy?
This is Trey Tucker. He's an author, speaker, mental health expert, and founder of Rugged Counseling, a therapy practice designed specifically for men. And let's just say he's known for his direct, no-nonsense approach. Why do you think so many men are externally successful and internally unhealthy?
Early on in my counseling days, a guy who's about 28 walks in, first appointment. I've never met him, but he is angry. He is mad. He plops down and he starts listing all of his accomplishments. He goes, I'm the CEO of this company. I started the company. I'm a multimillionaire. He shows me a picture. This is my wife. These are my kids. I mean, they look happy. They're gorgeous looking wife and kids. And he takes out his keys, slams them on the table. These are the keys to my Lamborghini. And he hits his hand on the table when he says this next line. He goes, now, why the blank am I not happy? And just like seething with rage because he had everything that the world was telling him he needed to accomplish and achieve, and it still didn't do it for him. I said, bro, you have no idea who you are, really no idea what your purpose is. And I could tell just from being a therapist, you can kind of tell when people have some past, what I call injuries. We got to figure out who you are, what's your purpose, and we got to figure out what are these injuries from your past that are holding you back. Because yeah, you're right. You're stuck. You can't achieve anything else.
Gaining ground, welcome Trey Tucker to the podcast. Trey, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, fellas. I'm fired up.
Okay, so Trey, tell us about you, about your ministry, Rugged Counseling. You wrote a book. How'd you get to where you are? My understanding is you're also you're on staff at a school. Is that right?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm all over the place.
So give me the story. How did you do what you do?
Yeah. The short version is I started off in the corporate world and I realized that wasn't fulfilling, but I met some great people. In the process of that, ended up meeting the Lord. So I came to Jesus later in life, but I already had a pretty, extensive psychology background because one of my mentors growing up, our school counselor, actually was just a prince of a man and impacted so many people. And I always had it in the back of my mind, I love the impact he was making in the business world. I couldn't make much of an impact except for somebody else's bottom line. And so fast forward, I go start teaching at a school, start coaching. Students are bringing me problems I am not qualified to handle. So I go back, get the master's in counseling. And
problems like what?
Oh, man. I mean, everything from the surface level stuff like the stress about girls,
Sure,
all the way to the trauma of parental mistreatment and anything in between. And then I also noticed that growing up, I didn't realize it in the moment, but I looked back and I always liked listening more than talking. People always opened up to me when I wasn't really trying to get them to do it. And I always loved figuring out what makes people tick. I always loved reading biographies and autobiographies and figure out how did people like Elvis and Michael Jackson climb the heights and then what made them crash after that. So psychology was always there. I just didn't realize it.
Man,
Yeah.
being a good listener is a gift.
Yes, sir.
It is a gift.
Yeah.
I've learned that as I've gotten older, that listening is half of communication.
Exactly.
It's the missing half sometimes.
I'd say it's more than half. I'm not a math guy, but
Exactly.
it's always going to be more than half.
So Trey, what problem are you trying to solve with Rugged Counseling? I mean, on your Instagram bio, it says a guy's guy therapist,
Yeah.
and for what it's worth, you got a pretty significant following on there. So you seem to have you struck a chord with somebody.
Yeah.
And for the guy on here who's like, dude, I don't know about therapy or I don't want to talk to a shrink or
Right.
dive into that a little bit. What did you notice and what problem are you trying to solve there?
Yeah. The biggest thing I try to tell guys is look, think of your brain and your nervous system, which is where your thoughts and emotions live. Think of that as the engine of your car. You're probably not going to check your engine very often until the check engine light comes on. And that's generally what emotions are. So we don't have to be always worried about our emotions, but when that check engine light comes on, when some unpleasant emotion happens, it's purposely trying to get our attention so that we can just pop the hood. So that's all I'm trying to tell guys is you ain't got to obsess about this stuff because in therapy culture right now, people are too obsessed with their feelings and how they're doing and all their past traumas and whatnot. And I don't like that extreme. So I'm trying to help us moderate a little bit. Let's figure out who we are and what our purpose is. And then how do we get there? And in that, we can solve some of the problems that are holding us back.
Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because that resonates with me in the sense of, so I've been to counseling in different seasons of my life. I've had some good counselors. I've had some not so good counselors.
Yeah.
I think that's true for every profession, however.
Oh, yeah.
I have noticed there is particularly even with my generation of millennials, there's some toxic stuff going around in therapy culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that might actually be why there's people that are resistant to it.
Right.
Like I remember preaching on a stage one time talking about counseling, and the overwhelming majority of people that I talked to, especially if they were older, was like, "Yeah, I ain't doing that." So, what are some things you're seeing? What are you talking about there, and what is the good way to do it?
Well, first of all, I'm with you. It's gotten too out of hand because, yeah, it went from one extreme of like, we ain't talking about anything psychology related to now they're looking at therapists. A lot of people are looking at therapists as like saviors and pastors and everything. I'm like, no, just let us stay in our lane and then let everybody else stay in theirs too. And then we can all work together. But generally, in terms of, are you asking like what are people wanting me to talk about with them, or in terms
What
of,
are you noticing that's harmful that may make people appreciative about? Like if a guy's on this, a guy's sitting here and he's got something going on in his life and he's never thought about therapy as a solution. What would you tell him to watch out for?
Watch out for you are your own source of love. You are your own source of validation. Like you can self-love your way through anything. Like, no, I'm sorry, that ain't gonna work. And a lot of people have tried that and they got burned or at least
they learned that self-help doesn't help.
Exactly. There keeps on being more books and books and books. And I've got one through a publisher too. And I didn't want to write the same old book, but yeah, the self-help books by themselves without the supernatural engine, they ain't taking us anywhere.
Talk to me about what healthy looks like. And the reason why I say that is everything we do on this podcast is about helping guys grow, okay? Spiritually, emotionally, physically. But
we talk about get 1% better every day,
right? In every facet, financially too. So there's men who are listening to this podcast that are single. There's men who are listening to this podcast that are married. They're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, everywhere in between, right? There's a real wide spectrum of listeners. For every single one of those men, I want them to be healthy. And health is a buzzword. We talk about health all the time. If you type that into your Instagram Explore page, you're going to get 1 million different things. I'm sure there's a ridiculous stat on the amount of Amazon books that fit in that category as well. What does a healthy and effective man actually look like from your vantage point for like long term? Talk to me about that.
I live by 3 words, and I'll take you through a different lens here in a second, but the lens that I like the most is, first word is identity. Who am I? Second one is purpose. Why am I here? And the third one is tribe or team. Like, who do I have around me? And if all those 3 areas have really solid answers, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and I know who my people are, who my team is, I can make it through any kind of external challenge. So I love that. That's my first checkpoint. And then if people need more of a specific kind of diagnostic question, I'll say, okay, we're psychological, we are relational, we are emotional, we are spiritual, and I'm sure there's one I'm missing, but we go through that checklist of all the different compartments that make up who we are. And if there's something out of tune there, like Eric Church, by the way, did y'all see this clip from his?
I saw your reaction video on
the graduation.
It was awesome.
It
was awesome.
The commencement delivery. Yeah, it was awesome.
So like, if one of our strings is out of tune, that means we're not as healthy as we could be. And at the same time, we got to lower our expectations just a little bit because we're never going to be at like tip-top shape all the time and just running smooth. Otherwise, we wouldn't need heaven. Like I try to get people to see like you're going to struggle. The goal is to get strong enough to make it through the struggle and then help somebody else who's going to make it through as well. And then we'll have a big old celebration in heaven.
Okay. Can you repeat those 3 again, Trey?
Identity.
Okay. Identity,
purpose, and team. I say team, but other people would say like tribe, belonging, whatever.
Yeah. Community.
Yep.
Dad, what comes to mind as you're thinking about all this?
Well, I think the thing you were about to hit on it, but because my sense is that one of your heart is really to help the younger men, right?
Yeah.
Kind of guys in their 20s too is a big target for you,
right?
And I was just thinking about like the differences, even like the 3 of us. I grew up in a different world than you guys grew up in, and now they're growing up in a different world than what you grew up in,
right?
And like I read a little bit of I've started your book. I didn't have a lot of lead time, but you say the very first line in your first chapter of Tough Enough is distraction is the enemy of everything you're capable of becoming.
Yes, sir.
And I just stopped right there to kind of download that. And I just think that guys, and I think the guys growing up, they're in their 20s now, they grew up with more distractions than I ever even fathomed when I was that age.
Absolutely.
And I just think they have a different set of obstacles to deal with. And I think, man, could you talk about that a little bit? I mean, that was your first line. That had to be heavy on your mind.
Yeah, because I see it so often in myself. A lot of times we want to blame teenagers or just younger generations for being so addicted to screens and having a low attention span. But I'm looking at me, and I bet if you measured my attention span from 5 years ago to now, I'm probably a lot worse off. So I'm talking first to myself and then trying to help everybody else. But yeah, if you look at right now, a guy, I have one guy in particular that I'm thinking of, but tons of people like him. They can do all kinds of physically challenging things, lift a ton of weights, run a marathon, any kind of challenge on the outside, they can handle that. But if you ask them, sit in this room for 5 minutes with no phone, no TV,
lose their stinking mind.
Exactly, lose their mind. And I'm like, what is that about? It's not about really the distraction. The thing that we're distracting ourselves with is that what are we trying to run from?
Well, it's clearly a byproduct of an addiction of some sort,
right?
And so that is that's a big part of caring for your mental health. And I think that's another thing I'd like to hear is just like, I know you can't, I mean, obviously we don't know everybody who's listening today, but just generally speaking, at some point, I'd like to talk about what are some general ways to care for your own mental health? What are some things to keep in mind? So I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the biggest thing I notice with guys, especially, is you talk about the distraction thing. If I ask them, hey, generally, what are your thoughts like? They have no idea. Like they don't really know what's running across their screen, so to speak, of their brain.
And obviously they think thoughts, but there's not a system to check those.
Yeah, not a system to check it. Yeah, they're just basically they're cut off from the neck down. That's how I used to be. Even when I first became a therapist, I was intellectualizing everything, but I didn't really zoom out and see like, okay, what takes up the brain space every day, and what am I actually noticing physically? Because until I realized that, I was not going to grow. To your point, I can't become the best version of me until I integrate me, like my brain, my spirit, my soul, my physical, like all that's got to be working together. And yes. I had basically just cut myself off.
Yeah.
Trey, is that why you think a lot of guys? And I just, as I'm hearing the question that he just asked, and then also you talk about the generational effect of distraction being a big piece of your book, Tough Enough. Is that why you think a lot of guys appear to be externally successful, but maybe internally unhealthy?
Yep.
Because again, that's part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing is there are people that I know, love, admire, run with in life. They're on my team, right? To use your word,
right?
That they kick butt and take names, right? And I want to be around those people, and I consider myself, hopefully, one of those people. And yet, I know some days I wake up and I'm like, dude, I feel like crap.
Oh yeah.
So why do you think so many men are externally successful? Everybody's looking at them and going, man, that guy's doing good, and internally unhealthy. And for what it's worth, that's a really lonely place to be.
It very much is. It very much is. So I'll answer that with a story. Early on in my counseling days, a guy who's about 28 walks in, first appointment. I've never met him, but he is angry. He is mad. And I figured I hadn't ticked him off because we hadn't met yet.
Yeah, you never met him.
That's right. So he's mad about something, but he plops down and he starts listing all of his accomplishments. He goes, I'm the CEO of this company. I started the company. I'm multimillionaire. He shows me a picture. This is my wife. These are my kids. I mean, they look happy. They're gorgeous looking wife and kids. And he takes out his keys, slams them on the table. These are the keys to my Lamborghini. And he hits his hand on the table when he says this next line. He goes, now, why the blank am I not happy? And just like seething with rage because he had everything that the world was telling him he needed to accomplish and achieve, and it still didn't do it for him. So at that point, I realized, okay, we sat there for a minute and I asked him some questions, but what it came down to is I said, bro, you have no idea who you are, really no idea what your purpose is. And I could tell just from being a therapist, you can kind of tell when people have some past, what I call injuries. The therapy world would call it traumas, but guys don't like that word trauma. So I just go with injuries. So I said, you got some injuries.
Well, and that's one of those buzzwords you were talking about that there might be a little unhealth around.
Exactly.
Just my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I told him that, like, we got to figure out who you are, what's your purpose? And we got to figure out what are these injuries from your past that are holding you back. Because yeah, you're right. You're stuck. You can't achieve anything else.
So, okay, who you are and what your purpose is. I mean, there's been a lot of words written about that in my lifetime, and there's been a whole lot of words written about that in human history, right? I've got my opinion on what that is and how do you get it. How do you, Trey, how would you coach somebody that's listening to this right now, hearing you tell that story, may identify with that guy?
Yeah.
And sure, you could substitute a few things. Maybe your situation looks a little bit different.
Sure.
How did you help him find out who he was and what he was here to do? And how would you coach a guy listening to this that's maybe asking those same questions?
For sure. I tell you what I do is a lot of times in speeches, I'll show a clip of this part of a Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man's about to get his suit taken from him because he messed up. And he says, "Please don't take this suit. I'm nothing without this suit." And I pause the video right there and I say, "All right, what's your Spider-Man suit?" Because we all have at least one. The thing that if I lost this, I'd be nothing. Or the lie, a lot of the guys we believes is like, I'm going to be a nobody. I'm going to be insignificant. So that's ultimately what we would say we're chasing is I want to be a somebody.
They want a title.
Yeah, they want a title. So with that guy in particular, I said, all right, who do you say you are right now? Like, what's your Spider-Man suit? And he goes, well, I'm a CEO. I said, okay, well, could that company fail? He said, yeah, it could. I said, well, it can't be your identity because then you're left with nobody or nothing, no title. And he listed all the different things. I'm a husband, I'm a father, all the things. And I said, could you lose all that? Yes. I said, well, if you could lose it, it can't be your core identity. These can be offshoots of your identity, but it can't be your core. Your core identity has got to be something that can never get taken from you. And then we flipped over to purpose. And his assumption was I just got to collect and get all I can and then leave it on to my kids. That's my purpose. I'm like, all right, well, there's probably worse purposes out there, but that's not, as you found out, that's not going to actually make you feel the way you want to feel. And also that's another thing guys say is I want to feel happy. Well, like we can go into that too, but that's ultimately
he clearly had a lack of peace. Which is probably a result of not knowing who he was and what his purpose is.
Exactly.
When you don't know those things, it's really hard to have inner peace in your heart.
Yeah.
You know, that reminds me of as you were and maybe you were trying to set this up, Trey. Let's see how let's see how one-minded we are here. But dude, I just kept thinking about Rich Young Ruler. You know, what's your purpose? It's just to gather stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
For what? Well, I want to store it up.
Yep.
And what does Jesus say to him? You got one thing you still lack. Yeah. And I love that. I think it's a beautiful story. It's also like, man, that's hard.
Oh yeah.
Because again, I want my name tied to good stuff.
Yes.
When people talk about Landon German, I hope the achiever side of my heart, mind wants it to be great things. And I don't think that's all sinful and wrong for what it's worth either.
Agreed.
And yet I understand never one time have those things been there for me when it's the middle of the night and I'm wondering if this thing is still worth doing.
Yeah.
You know, so Trey, what is that for you? I know you're a follower of Christ. Okay.
Right.
So talk about that a little bit. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 46.
Okay. So 46-year-old guy.
Right.
Was in the marketplace, you realize, hey, that's not fulfilling. So you're doing something that is with your career, but even that, to your point, can be taken away from you.
Right.
What can't be taken away from you? And why does it matter so much to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's for me, again, and I love talking to people that want nothing to do with church, nothing to do with Jesus. So I never just blast through the front door. But so I say for me, the only answer I found is the person of Jesus, and what he brings literally is like the Father's love and the Father's acceptance. And one of my favorite verses is when the Father tells Jesus, "You're my beloved Son, and I'm pleased with you." Yeah, exactly. And he told him those words before he ever did any miracles.
Anything.
Yeah. And that I have clung to that because in my past, rejection was kind of my main injury that kept happening over and over. And again, I'm using injury instead of traumas, but I just had rejections stacked upon rejections. And I started taking away these meanings about myself. I must be ugly. I must not be cool. Maybe nobody likes me. That kind of stuff generally under the surface. So I decided, well, I better outrun that through things like hookups, achievements, and the more I was able to like stack the achievements, I still wasn't able to outrun that stuff under the surface that was just right on me like Velcro. And the Father's love and acceptance literally was the only thing that gave me lasting peace that I actually can hang on to. Now, of course, I still slide backward, like you talked about earlier. We want all the achievements even now post Jesus, but I think that's achievements are good if they're in their place. And what I've realized is like, it's natural in terms of human nature to want the achievements for ourselves. So let's take it supernatural and let's achieve so that we can give it to something and somebody bigger than ourselves.
Dad, I want to hear what you have to say in response to that question as well. But, one thing I'm thinking of is, Trey, a whole thing's about growth. And what we talk about is like the enemy of gaining ground in your life is a little word called drift.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's not it's usually not the 180 that kills you.
Yep. Where
you're crushing it, doing well, being faithful, and then you just decide, you know what, I'm out. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to church anymore. I'm not going to be around this group of guys that I know make me better. I'm just going to go do whatever I want.
Yep.
It's one missed day turns to two. 2 turns to 5, right? That Bible's getting pretty dusty. Haven't prayed, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And part of that is because of distraction.
Mm-hmm.
The other part can be because of injury.
Yep.
And I think attaching your identity to something that is not gonna last. Dad, you're a pastor. You're in many eyes, or from many perspectives, a professional Christian. And yet,
that's debatable.
And yet, there are a lot of people would say that, right? Like,
I'm sure,
right? Guess the reason why people act weird around us. Like they don't know what to do in the grocery store when they see you because they think you're something else. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing.
Yeah, like when they want a selfie on the airplane.
A selfie, or they stare at you.
Can I just have?
Yeah, they just stare. They don't wave. They don't say anything. They just kind of stare, and you can tell they're talking. Like just say hi. I don't know what to do.
I was on a plane with your mom a couple months ago, and this guy from our church was there, and he's like, "Hey, pastor," he goes, "Hey, man, can I have a selfie with you?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was thinking, Mom was like rolling her eyes, like, I don't even want a selfie with him, and he's my husband, But,
well, maybe I haven't reached selfie level yet. I usually just get weird looks. Anyway, my point is this. Okay, you've been doing ministry for a long time. How have you learned not to attach your identity to an output? That was a word actually a mentor used for me a long time ago, an output, because I have some performance. I want to attach my identity to performance.
Yeah.
Well, it can't be anything that's an output, right?
Right.
So, Dad, how have you learned that in ministry? Because a lot of people would think pastors probably don't do that. Oh, yeah, they do. So, what have you learned and experienced?
I'm just starting my 40th year in ministry this next week. And I think, I don't know if this is the answer you're looking for, but I think you learn through failure.
Yeah.
And you realize, man, if this thing were up to me, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
And that's how I that sounds super, like, I don't know if that sounds like the churchy answer, but I've just learned to give stuff over to God when I'm not sure what to do. And I've learned in my life how to control anxiety, which is a big deal.
Okay, let's talk about that actually. Anxiety, depression, those sorts of words get thrown around a lot in culture. It gets talked about, I think probably for parents that are listening to this, may have teenagers. That's absolutely something that is
epidemic in our world.
It's worth talking about.
Yeah.
And so if you're a man and you struggle with anxiety, with depression, with some type, first of all, what would you even call that? Anxiety and depression. Those probably aren't the only two. Can you help me? Can you help me talk a little bit more intelligently about those? Because you're obviously way more studied than I am in those.
Well, these are the two areas that people come to the therapist for the most. And anxiety is far and away, and then it's depression. And then, of course, there's plenty more reasons, but it's really two ends of the same spectrum. Anxiety is, I'm so worried about the future. I'm so worried about what might happen. Depression is, I don't really care because what's the point? And we all fall one place or another on that spectrum. I tend to fall more toward the anxiety side of things, and I want to hear your story about how you got control of that at some point. But then other guys tend to fall more toward the depression side of things. But really, I go back to that check engine light thing. It's like the anxiety is uncomfortable, the depression's uncomfortable, and they're trying to tell you, hey, pop the hood and figure out what is it we're really afraid of, or what is it that we're grieving? Because depression is probably related to grief of some kind. It's like not just when somebody dies, it's when a big loss happens or a big change happens.
You don't get picked or rejected or something.
Bingo,
right? Yeah.
Bingo. So yeah, that's how I look, at least from a bird's eye view, at those two things.
Well, if you got guys, I think one thing I've noticed even from my own life too is like, yeah, I've had my own battles with anxiety, and I don't know, Dad, maybe it's genetic. Maybe I should blame you for it.
That's right.
Well, certainly.
The therapist would say, just blame the mom and dad. That's it.
Hey guys, we'll be back to the episode in just a minute. Real quick, I want to say something. Did you know that 64% of you who watch this show are not subscribed? And so if you don't mind, if you're part of that 64%, would you click that subscribe button? It'll help you by staying up to date on all things on Gaining Ground, and help us by having the show become more visible for men all across the world. If you're listening on audio, if you could follow the show, leave a rating and review. It'd be incredibly helpful. All right, let's get back into the conversation. Thanks as always for tuning in. If there's a guy listening to this that has never even put himself in that category, like, yeah, I guess I'm worried, or I don't know if I struggle with anxiety. I think a lot of times it's like, do you have to have a diagnosis to know how to defeat this thing?
No.
You don't. And then the second piece is, I think a lot of guys may be struggling with that, but don't know that that's something that needs their attention. Mm-hmm. Check engine light's on. Well, I'm going to pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to tell anybody about that.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you feel that way?
Yeah, I just, keep drinking more and keep smoking more and just cover it up like it. Just kidding.
Well, that seems to be the go-to for a lot of guys.
Right? Yeah. Or slap a medication on it and try to No, what I try to tell people is you got to go through it. And it's very uncomfortable, just like we talked about, to go through and sit there with an uncomfortable emotion. But if you'll sit there with it long enough, you can actually make it work for you. Because again, since it's a check engine light, it's actually trying to be helpful. So if you'll sit there and get to the root of what's causing that uncomfortable emotion, then you can see like, oh, okay, well, there's probably a few little tweaks in my life I need to make, whether it's like the people we hang out with, or maybe our physical health or our sleep, or whatever the variations of the causes might be. But we got to go through it and sit with it long enough to see what's actually causing it.
Dad, what was your story of anxiety, and how did you overcome that?
I just think that the breakthrough for me was when I realized, when I was worried about something, I always wanted to react to it pretty quickly. Yeah. I want to fix it.
Yeah.
And what I found is that was hardly ever helpful. Mm-mm. And so what I've learned over time is that I've kind of learned to sit down and think, okay, what's the worst case scenario here? Number one. Mm. And number two, these things that I worry about constantly every day, how many of them ever really come to fruition? Mm-hmm. And when I started doing the math, it was like way less than 1%.
Yes.
And I realized this isn't realistic.
Right.
And I'm not trying to get overly spiritual, but I will tell you this. One of the things that I do is I try to create space for God to speak to me about it. I really do.
Good.
And sometimes it's like, if I want to react today, whether it's whatever it is, I will say, what if I just waited one more day and maybe it feels different tomorrow? Mm-hmm. It almost always feels different tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. The other thing is that if you read Philippians 4, and I know we're here to preach today, we're not here to preach, but it is an absolute clinic on overcoming worry.
Yep.
When Paul says, rejoice in the Lord always, I say it again.
Rejoice.
Rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near.
Yeah.
Do not be anxious about anything, but every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Mm. To me, that's breakthrough stuff right there. Yeah. If you really look at it and break it down and you actually do it.
Right, yeah.
It's unbelievable. But I just try to make space for God to speak into that situation.
So here's where I love the therapy world, because science if you run it long enough, science always catches up to what God says is true. So you take, like, those two things I heard you say essentially are silence and gratitude.
Yep.
So if you take it in secular language, you look at the benefits of silence. Our brains know how to heal themselves. We just don't give them enough silence, or any silence in some cases. So if we'll just start by, I beg people to start with 30 seconds of silence today, because that might be uncomfortable. But if you can go 60 seconds tomorrow and then keep adding another 30 seconds every day, eventually you'll see your brain has rewired itself because you just gave it the time and space to do it. And then for people that want to connect with God, obviously that time is there too.
It's therapy.
Yeah, it's therapy. Yeah.
It's biblical. Think about 1 Samuel 3. Samuel says, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening."
Yeah.
David, "Be still and know that I am God."
Right.
I mean, it's incredible. Elijah, how did he hear God? In a whisper.
That's it.
You got to be pretty quiet if you're going to hear a whisper.
That's it. Exactly.
So it's all over the pages of Scripture.
And
Sorry, I won't preach anymore.
No, because I'm with you here, because the science also shows the benefits of gratitude. And what I end every session with anybody I'm with, I ask them, all right, what are 2 things you're grateful for as we walk out of here? Because I want them to walk out with their chin up a little bit, and I want their brains to be filtering, all right, what am I already grateful for? Because I already thought about what I was grateful for in the past. Because I know the science and the Scripture tells us, like, the more we're focusing on what we're grateful for, we don't go have room for worries.
Gratitude is a huge part of overcoming anxiety.
Yeah.
That's why Paul says that. With thanksgiving,
Yep.
let your requests be known to God.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you could be thankful for, but you're not thinking about them right now because you got this runaway anxiety.
Yep.
And so it's huge. It's a big part of it.
Can we take that word and I need you to correct me if I did the wrong kind of academic research here, because the phrase "be anxious for nothing" or "do not worry," I looked that up in the Greek, because, like, a lot of people take that out of context and they say, well, it's real simple, just stop it. I'm like, all right, well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I looked it up, and best as I can tell with my non-theological training, the phrase means not just don't worry, but don't live tomorrow while you're still in today. Like, you still have concerns. Like, yes, there's struggles. Just don't be living them out there while you still got to actually be here today. So is
Right.
that generally what you see in the
Yeah,
original?
I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then if you
Well,
think
that's why Jesus asked the question, the rhetorical question, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to your life?
a single hour to your life.
Right.
And then even it's starting to finish up on Philippians 4. What does Paul do at the very end of that passage? He says, rewire your brain by
Thinking about these things.
whatever is noble, whatever is true, whatever is right.
Yep.
Remind yourself of how good God really is.
Yeah.
It's so huge. It is science.
Mm-hmm. It's just a habit. Like, there's all kinds of, like, books and speeches about habits right now. He's basically saying in one sentence what you could build a whole speech about habits is just build the habit of gently pulling your brain back to these things.
Yeah. That's so good.
Trey, one of the scriptures I think that he just referenced is Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I'm God.
Yeah.
I've exalted God among the nations, I'll be exalted in the earth." It's God talking to us, right?
Yep.
I saw an Instagram post of yours where you broke that down a little bit. And so I guess people resonated with it because it had like a gajillion comments on it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? And specifically is like, guy is on his way home from work, stressed out because of something that happened. He hears, "Be still and know that I'm God."
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, really? Right now?
Yeah.
You want me to be still? Whatever. You went through a breakup or whatever, right? Talk to us about that verse and what it means.
When I first read it, that was my reaction. It's like, really? Are you serious? Like, this is actually what the instruction is? Like, this can't be it.
Yeah, shut up.
Exactly. Shut up.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that's the Old Testament version of the New Testament, "do not worry." Like, both of those things are the same reaction. Like, really? This can't be all there is. So that's why I looked up that one too. And I realized also that when I looked in the Hebrew, and again, I'm not a theologically trained scholar here, so tell me if I've gotten this wrong, but that phrase "be still," the word "be still," it doesn't mean just freeze. It means take your hand, which is tightly gripped right now, and just release.
Yeah.
And then the idea there, the word picture there is like, yes, still make efforts, still do the things you need to do to fix whatever the problem is, but do it without white knuckling it where it's just all up to me. And that way you can be free in your actions. It's not don't do anything. It's just do it with a trusting heart.
Great. That's where I want to go with the rest of this conversation, because Okay, couple things we've learned so far, and it's a lot of this is like, yeah, that makes sense. Number one, we're not designed to just be constantly shackled, imprisoned by worry.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you can't redline a car, or you'll blow the engine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can't live on redline. Pretty sure we know that. You got to put gas in your car. You got to all do different kinds of things. You've talked about some of the soundtrack. That's what I love about that Philippians 4 passage, is thinking about it like, what's the playlist that's going on in your head? Is it constantly negative, or is it noble, and is it full of good things? Philippians 4.
Yeah.
So there are moments in our life that happen, decisions that we make that maybe we shouldn't have made, things that happen in our home, at work. I mean, it could be anywhere. Problems are gonna be there.
Yeah.
That's one thing I always learned about problems, is they're always there for you the next day. They're pretty good about that, right?
They ain't leaving you.
So, what does it look like to see an issue, to see a problem, to see something? Dad, you talked about how you had to fix stuff, and that led to that hellacious cycle of anxiety in your life.
Yeah.
Problems ain't going to go away. Neither of you are suggesting you just put your head in the sand and trust God, in quotations. What do you do instead?
One of the things I do is I start writing stuff down. So there's a few versions of that. The two versions that help me are, I'll set a timer for 5 minutes, and I'll literally just start writing, and it doesn't matter what comes out of my pen. I don't care if it's related to the thing I'm worried about or not, because it's just giving my brain a chance to dump the oil that needs to be changed out, to come back to that car metaphor again. So we always got to bring out the old oil, the sludge that needs to be cleaned out. And the best way to do that is through handwriting. So I'll do that for 5 minutes and just allow that cleansing process. And then it's easier for me to just sit and be still. And then what I do is I write down, okay, the list of things that I could do to address this problem, because you're supposed to take some actions with most of the problems. Like, it doesn't mean just sit there and wait on God, like you said. I make a list of the things that I can do, and I make a list of the things that only God can do. Because usually
that's really good.
Yeah?
That's really good.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm with you on writing stuff down, because I do that too, and it usually turns into a prayer journal. I've never broken it down, though, to things I can do and things God can do. So keep going. I love
like
that.
that.
I love that.
Generally, I found that the reason that column, those two columns help me, is because, generally speaking, God won't do for me what I can do for myself, generally. And of course, I'm not going to be able to do what only He can do. So it gives me a sense of, okay, where's my responsibility and where is God's responsibility? I know we could get into a whole theological discussion on that too, but that's how I help myself. And then I take that list to people that I trust, mentors, friends, and I say, all right, help me see this clearly, because, man, when it's right in front of our face, we can't see it clearly.
Another thing that I do when I'm super anxious about something is I've got a few guys that I go to and say, here's what's going through my heart right now.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Knowing what you know about me, knowing what you know about God, you think I'm in trouble here? And almost every time they're like, you're not in trouble.
Yes,
You're
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's so important, to seek out some people that you trust,
right?
People that have earned the right to speak into your life.
Exactly.
That's a big deal.
Hey, Trey just said something that I want to hear more about, and then we're going to do a segment to end this thing, rapid fire. You talked about God won't do what you could do for yourself.
Generally.
Okay, generally. And I agree with that. I heard a story one time about this guy that was a part of a shipwreck. And so he gets shipwrecked. He's on this island by himself. He's a faithful man, and so he starts to pray. He prays that God would rescue him. And so he goes to sleep that night. He wakes up in the morning, and he's praying, God, please rescue me, right? God's going to show up. God's going to save me. A boat comes by. Says, hey, do you need to get on our boat? He says, no, God's going to show up and save me.
We all know this.
Right? Same thing happens the next day. And the next day after that, what happens? He eventually dies. The learning is this: God sent the boat.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes God is ready to help us with all kinds of stuff, but we may be too prideful, too stuck in our ways, to recognize that the next best thing that we need to do is go talk to a friend, Go talk to a brother. Go get him plugged into this community that we're building right here and actually be honest and level with somebody.
Yeah.
Right? And so I love that you said that, because I think there's probably some men right now that are praying prayers for God to rescue them from something that they simply just have to make the decision today to stop doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're struggling with anxiety and you know your phone makes you anxious. Stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a way to decrease your exposure to that. You're around a group of people and they're not good for you. What do? You go find people that you can. You don't have to wait on God to do those things.
Exactly.
Dad, what was your question for Trey?
I want to hear more about how to harness my inner caveman.
All right. Well, we've already talked about the first step, which is get comfortable with silence, or at least a little more comfortable with silence.
Yeah.
Because when you sit with the uncomfortable emotion, the caveman is the one that's causing that emotion.
Yes.
And he thinks that there's something out there that's literally going to kill you. He just doesn't know any better. Like most people are afraid of public speaking. They think that's going to kill them, but logically it's not. But he's the one that thinks it might. And so he's going to make you super uncomfortable to try to protect you from what he sees as a threat.
Yeah.
But if you sit with that sensation long enough, it calms down. And that's basically you telling the caveman, hey, I'm listening.
Yeah.
And then and this is maybe where a therapist can be helpful, you can actually like hear that part of your nervous system tell you what its real fear is. And then from there, you take the action steps. That's like the super quick version of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to read about that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in your book, so.
All right, Trey, I want to finish up this podcast, I want to do like some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
Situations from everyday life and your encouragement and advice on how a healthy man could handle this.
Let's do it.
All right. So, first one, let's talk relationships or marriage. Okay. You're in a marriage and your wife says, I feel emotionally disconnected to you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the unhealthy response? What's the healthy response?
Healthy response is be curious. Like, tell me more. First of all, thank her or whoever for telling you that, because that takes guts for anybody to bring up something that's kind of awkward like that. So thanks for bringing it up. Tell me more. Like you say that to anybody and you've already got peace and
I love
be
curious.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a great answer, Trey.
Yeah, thank you. It ain't mine. One of my favorite, y'all watch Ted Lasso?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite scenes. Is be curious, not judgmental. Because
Yeah.
when somebody tells us like, hey, I'm feeling disconnected from you, the initial instinct is probably to be defensive. Like, well, why? I'm here all the time. But now there's something there. So like, just, hey, tell me more.
That scene is one of the greatest scenes in television history.
Amen,
when
brother.
he is throwing the darts.
Yes.
And he says, yeah, like, Ted, have you ever played darts before? It's amazing.
I'm afraid to admit this. I've never actually seen
Dude,
the
it's
show.
the-
I need
you're-
to watch it.
yeah,
I
you're-
need to watch it.
You're crazy. You need to watch that show.
I know.
There's another season coming out.
There is. I hope it's better than seasons 2 and 3. I was a little disappointed.
same.
So,
Season 1 was so
yeah.
All right.
was
So
awesome.
the healthy response is be curious. The
Yes, sir.
unhealthy response is what?
Defensive. And, just
Yeah.
what are you talking about? How dare you? That kind of response.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody, and this could be a single person. This could be somebody that's married, anywhere on the relational spectrum, feeling stuck, lonely, unsure of purpose. What do you think's really going on? What do they do? How do they get out of it?
Yeah, that one, it's hard to give you like a single bullet answer, but generally speaking, they don't have a father figure or they don't tap into that resource, because a father figure is going to be able to know you well, just like you're talking about with your friends that you go to with anxious situations, but not just know you well, but has been further down the road than you, because that guy's going to be able to see like, all right, I see this in you. And then I think this path is probably going to be a really good fit for you. Somebody that's your own age may not be able to tell you that, but generally speaking, a father figure can help you figure out your purpose.
All right. You get let go at your job. You weren't expecting it. You show up. All of a sudden, it's your last day at the company. What happens to you emotionally?
Mm-hmm.
How do you recover? How do you not feel rejection?
Oh yeah. Well, you don't feel rejection. You got rejected. So acknowledge it. Like that's what I tell people all the time. Is like when uncomfortable situations happen, expect them to happen. Like, okay, here's one. Again, this ain't heaven, so it's gonna happen. So acknowledge it. Man, that hurts. Where does it hurt? That hurts. Like when stuff happens like that to me, when rejection happens, I get queasiness in my stomach.
It's a new injury.
Exactly. It's a new injury.
So acknowledge it.
Yeah. Don't just power through.
Yep.
Like you might need to power through in the phase of like, okay, now it's time to get to work and find a job. But eventually you got to come back and actually feel that stuff. And the whole phrase of feel it to heal it, that has to happen. But first you probably need to take care of business of finding a new job, then grieve the old one.
All right, you listen to this podcast, you decide you're going to be more emotionally healthy. That's great. How do you stop becoming soft, passive, or self-absorbed?
I never like stopping something without replacing it with something else. So just stop thinking about a pink elephant. Well, now you're thinking about a pink elephant. So
Right.
what what do we want to think about instead, or what do we want to become instead? I love guys, especially, are just visually oriented. So if there's a personality trait or some sort of characteristic I want, I'll like look at a picture of the person that kind of represents that trait, and I'll put that picture on the fridge just because that person, like if it's, I don't know, if it's bravery, I'm gonna put a picture of Braveheart on the fridge because, like, if I want to be more brave, then I see a guy that actually is brave, and I can start subconsciously moving that direction.
Or Clint Eastwood, which is right behind you there.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for putting Clint there, the man.
All right, you got a brutal day at work. You walk in, and I think in my situation, I got a bunch of little kids running around. They need you. They're loud. Or if you're not somebody that's married, you got roommates or whoever you walk into your home to, okay?
Yep.
Brutal day at work. You're irritated. You're overwhelmed. You're at the end of your rope. What does emotional maturity look like?
All right. Emotional maturity first means you realize that this is the state you're in as you're driving home, so that you don't walk in unaware of what's happening in you. So sit in the driveway or think about it as you're driving, whatever it takes, and start doing some deep breathing. I tell people do a 4-7-8 breathing. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. And if you can't remember all those numbers, just remember the key is 8 seconds out. The longer your exhale, the more your nervous system gets the signal like, it's okay, we're cool, let's just chill. So in those moments, you can say to whoever it is, like, hey, I got a low gas tank right now. I'm just letting you know, and I'm doing my best, and I'm breathing. And I just want you to know this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So it's not a cop out. It's just like, hey, here's the process. Do this with me.
4-7-8.
4-7-8.
Did you do that because of Philippians 4-7 and 8?
I've never thought of that before, but that
Bro,
actually,
you're
there's
welcome.
There's more science that backs up scripture.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, man. That's absolute flames right there, dude. Philippians 4-7-8, 4-7-8 breathing. You could repeat that verse as you're going through that practice.
And I didn't make the whole 4-7-8 breathing up. That's research. So
that's like a
science.
It's like a psychological thing, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. All right. Guy realizes struggle with anxiety and depression. Doesn't want to make a struggle his identity.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Yeah, most guys don't want to make the struggle their identity. It's just that sometimes that's all they can see. And I'd say we've talked about so much about how to check on yourself internally, and so yeah, do all that stuff. But then I think we need to reemphasize the key of like let's open up to one guy around us in our life. Like vulnerability is awesome, not just for the sake of being vulnerable, but being vulnerable so that I can reach my full potential. Because if I'm just putting up a front, then the real me ain't growing. It's just staying stagnant.
All right. I wonder if you're going to have an answer for this one. This is going to be exciting. Regardless of where somebody listening right now feels their relevancy is towards emotional health, maybe they're thinking, I'm pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best question that you can ask yourself every day to try to evaluate where you're at?
The question that helps me the most is, who can I help today? Because every time I look back in my struggles, I've realized when I've gotten out of myself and out of that just right up in my face view of my own problems and help somebody else, I feel 10 times better. Maybe not immediately, but as I continually serve somebody else, even in little ways, that's medicine that even science can't touch.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
great.
Well, man,
that's a great answer.
Trey, I really appreciate you and the fact that you are here today in studio with us all the way from Tennessee. So thank you for your life. Thank you for your ministry. If people want to connect with you, how do they do that? I know you've got social media platform. Is it Rugged Counseling? Is that your handle?
Rugged Counseling, that's it.
And then the book is called?
The book is Tough Enough. Yeah,
Tough Enough. So. And the tagline is?
Man.
Didn't I see it's the
hone
first?
Your habits, cultivate your purpose, and forge genuine strength.
There you go. Exactly.
And the first book ever written for guys in their 20s?
First ever written for guys in their 20s. And I donate anything I make off of that book to organizations that help men or help rescue girls that have been, or children that have been kidnapped into human trafficking. So,
man, that's unbelievable. And I'm a big fan, and I'm thankful, and I hope God continues to bless that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you, everybody.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Gaining Ground podcast. If you enjoyed today's content, it would help us a ton. If you could like this video, click the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for more resources or how to get connected, please feel free to look in the description below and find our website, gaininggroundmen.com. We'd love to connect with you there. We'll see you next time.